Hey Ottawa, welcome to this week's episode of Operation Support Local. I am your host, Derek Fage. We have another exciting show for you, and we're going to start with a couple of young girls who got into helping people and young budding entrepreneurs figure out how to sell their products and services online. This is done through Incubator 13, which is a great space for co-working, training, and also provided a unique event space for people. Well, part of Market 13 is getting vendors together, training them, and figuring out how to do it in a new digital world.
Market 13 is really an amazing project that Adele and I have been working on for a while. Essentially what we're doing is we've created an online marketplace where shop owners and local business owners who may not have as much experience with a digital marketplace learn how to use that, learn how to use an online store, learn how to sell their products digitally. And so far we have 5 vendors on the store, 3 service-based and 2 products-based. And all of them are really excited to get this launched. They're excited to be able to sell their products online during this time, especially when a lot of them have suffered because of COVID-19. And we're all really excited for the launch of this program. And the fact that it's been launched a couple days ago, we're excited to see the impact of it.
The idea of the project actually came from our supervisor, Sebastian, and we're currently under Incubator 13, which is a program under the Rita Rockcliffe Community Resource Center. So he had always wanted to build an online marketplace for these business owners and these entrepreneurs, but there was never really enough time to build it until Rebecca and we kind of came along as volunteers, and then now we're working for Incubator 13. So we kind of took this project under our own hands, and now we've been building it since then.
We started with designing the project itself, figuring out exactly what it would look like. Adele took on more of a tech role while I've been looking more at communication with the vendors. I've been doing a lot of writing contracts, writing grant applications, things like that, and a lot of looking online for how we can possibly make this work. It's definitely been a bit adaptable. I've done a bit of everything.
All the current vendors on the store are somehow related to Incubator 13. So we have currently 5 vendors, 4 of which are alumni of Incubator 13, and the other one is a mentor with Incubator 13. So we actually got a hold of them and got to tell them about the project through Sebastian. He kind of gave us their contact information, and we reached out to them. So the product-based vendors, it's quite straightforward. You kind of just buy the product online, kind of like Amazon. But for the 3 service-based businesses, we have a request a quote page where they can kind of specify their needs more precisely so that we can connect them to the vendors so that they can discuss it further in detail.
Currently, what we're doing with the vendors is we're showing them what their own page looks like at Shopify. We're showing them how the store works and sort of teaching them about their particular platform on it. In the future, now that the store is launched, we're going to be moving less into building the store and more with working with the vendors on the store and showing them how to use those specific features that we got them on their platform. We also hope to run a couple of seminars and webinars and things like that, just to teach them how to use Shopify and teach them about the Digital Main Street program if that's something they're interested in looking into.
First of all, we want to make sure that we can get a lot of these local businesses online and they have the tools to manage their own online store in the future. But even more than that, we hope that we can kind of encourage buyers to shop locally and shop more sustainably. So we hope that through this program and through this store, we can kind of introduce a lot of these local businesses to buyers who may not have heard of them, and then it kind of encourage them to, instead of looking at these big corporations looking to them for products and services, we can kind of push them to a more sustainable path.
Hopefully the future of this site is just expanding, getting more businesses on the site, and graduating the ones that we currently have so that they're able to run their own. We really see this as a continuous program where we're getting new vendors on the site, and it's always going to be updated with new information.
Is it business as usual at City Hall during a pandemic? I had a chance to catch up with Jim Watson to find out how decision-making has been affected during COVID-19 and what his message is to the community. I wanted to start off just talking about, the effect that the pandemic has had on you personally. How have you been dealing with it?
Well, look, I've been, fine. I have no complaints. The one issue is I miss engaging with people, doing a lot of, conference calls and Zoom calls and Skype calls. Not the same as meeting in person with people, but look, we've got a great team here, a very small skeleton team that are working out of City Hall, and our employees continue to do the good work. The public health nurses are remarkable, picking up the recycling and garbage, the fire, paramedic, police, other first responders. All that work continues, and I'm very proud of our staff here and proud of the residents who have accepted the fact that we're in very challenging, difficult times, and people really have to adhere to the advice of our professionals in the medical community so that we can contain the virus and ultimately rid ourselves with it when a vaccine comes online.
How has City Council run since the beginning? I'm sure things have changed over time, but from the beginning to now, how have things changed as far as City Council being run?
Well, as you know, the province indicated we weren't allowed to have gatherings at that point of over 10 people, so we couldn't have a council meeting with people in the council chambers. So we started off doing it on the phone, and then we went to Zoom. And it seems to be working quite well. We still have public delegations at committee who can sign up and speak on Zoom as well. It's not the same, obviously, as having everyone in the room and you get to see your colleagues and you can, chat with them back and forth. This is a little more structured and formal. But we're still getting work done, getting applications approved for planning issues and so on, and providing guidance and support and help to our first responders, helping Ottawa Public Health as they go through all of the testing sites and the messaging to respect social distancing and washing your hands and wearing a mask and so on. So the council meetings, we haven't missed a council meeting. We've just transferred them from in person to online.
Has it been business as usual, or has there been some sort of has it slowed down a bit, or some stoppage in decision making?
No, there has been some slowdowns. Things, for instance, a good example is the Transportation Master Plan. We would be doing an origin destination study where people are coming from, what hours of day, to try to find out traffic patterns. You can't do that now because the traffic is down substantially, both automobile traffic and transit traffic, because more people are working from home. Unfortunately, close to 50,000 people have lost their jobs, so that means that they're not traveling as much. So things like that we're going to have to postpone, but other day-to-day business planning applications, policy decisions, and starting the process of setting up the budget continue.
What have you heard from local businesses, Jim?
Well, it's a mixed story. I've been trying to go out into different wards over the last couple of weeks. I was in Stittsville, Innes Ward, West Carleton, Rideau Goulburn, Bay Ward. A lot of the businesses have become very resilient and very creative in terms of what they're trying to do to keep their doors open, particularly restaurants and bars and so on, which have had a tough time because they were not allowed to open until phase 3. A good example, I was at Louis Pizza in MacArthur. They've developed these pizza kits where they put the dough and all of the toppings together in a pizza box and they sell it to you and you make the pizza at home. So it'd be great for kids and families and so on. And they tell me that's helped save their business because obviously they can't have anyone sit in the restaurant at that time. Now they're able to. Other places have been creative and switched from making one product to making, vodka to hand sanitizer. Others have started making plexiglass shields. I went to a store in Stittsville that is booming, making signs and plexiglass dividers for businesses. So others, you go down Bank Street, Elgin Street, the Byward Market, you see a lot more empty storefronts, which is worrisome. These businesses, were just not able to make it. And the pandemic obviously made that situation even worse, which is unfortunate and which is one of the reasons why I think we have to continue to control our taxes here and keep the tax rate at or below 3% because we don't want to add to the burden of these businesses who are having a tough enough time keeping the doors open and keeping people employed.
What do you say to Ottawa citizens? We keep hearing more and more about, we've talked about it for many years, of course, when it comes to support local. But I think it's become an even bigger conversation. What would you like to say to Ottawans when it comes to supporting local and its importance?
Well, think of your neighbors, think of your neighbors' kids, maybe your kids that had a job in a grocery store or another shop. This is the time now that these businesses need our help, particularly the restaurant business. You know, they were shut down for months and months, had no revenue coming in. Go and buy gift cards or gift certificates. I went out and bought, I think, 7 or 8 different gift cards that I'll use later on, that hopefully helps a little bit with the cash flow of these businesses. You know, support these businesses, because they're the ones that support local Little League teams and support charity great causes, or fundraisers and so on. And you know, they're hurting, they're struggling. Obviously, you know, some of the stores, like grocery stores and pharmacies, did very well because they were allowed to stay open. But some of the smaller, you know, so-called mom and pop shops, family businesses, have had a really rough time, and they've had to lay off people, they've had to close their doors. They're now back up and running, but of course with the patio season relatively short, that's going to cause other challenges. So when they shut down, please, you know, if you can, go into their dining facilities and help them out that way.
I know you're working closely with Ottawa Public Health as we move into the colder season, into fall and winter. Is there a greater concern?
Well, there is. You know, the colder weather limits the capacity on patios. We still have provincial regulations that require us to basically cut in half the number of seats in a restaurant, so that hurts the bottom line. So we need our residents, you know, many of whom are federal government employees who have not lost a paycheck, as is the case with municipal employees who continue to work from home or on the road. You know, we need you to go in and help these businesses because they're struggling. They're having a tough time. You know, I'm lucky to meet a lot of really innovative entrepreneurs who've done well, but there are an awful lot that have not done well. And as I said, when you see these empty storefronts and for lease signs and notices by landlords that they've been locked out because they haven't been able to pay their rent, we have a real tough time ahead in the winter, and we need to support these local businesses. You know, Christmas shopping, shop locally. You know, give. You know, while we appreciate everyone likes to go online and shop with big American companies, we also want them to shop locally. Go down to some of these great neighborhoods, whether it's Manotick or Cumberland Village or Bank Street or St. Joseph Boulevard or Montreal Road. Montreal Road, they're having a tough time because they have construction, you know, in addition to this. Elgin Street went through, you know, 2 years of construction and then COVID, and now things are doing very well, generally speaking, on Elgin. They've got patios, there's life, there's trees that have been planted, but those patios disappear. You know, you're not going to want to have a nice meal in December when it's 20 below. So you got to get inside the restaurant and help them, you know, on a regular basis, because it's going to be a tough time for a number of these people.
A lot of concern and conversation around a second wave, Jim. What are you hearing about that?
Well, no one really knows. You know, we've had. You know, we had relatively good numbers in terms of number of cases up until the end of June, and then July we went back up into the double digits in the 20s and 25. Yesterday I think we were down to 8, so we're back and forth. It hasn't really flatlined for us. We want to get into the single digits and eventually down to 0, but in the interim we have to be prepared that there could very well be a second wave. And that's why it's so important for people to respect the medical professionals, wearing a mask, staying 2 meters apart, washing your hands, and you know, practicing social distancing.
Our next segment is with Michael Wood. He is the co-owner and managing partner of Ottawa Special Events. Well, they put on some of the biggest events and festivals here in Ottawa, and unfortunately, due to the lockdown, they had to lay off their entire staff. However, Michael Wood turned his attention to helping small businesses here in Ottawa and across the country.
When I walk into the warehouse now in September, you know, it was July, I came in on a Friday night and there was no trucks in the parking lot. There was no trucks coming and going. It was Friday night, I was the only one here, and it was the most unnerving feeling ever, because normally we would have 15 trucks out on the road at any time during that part of the season, and just trucks coming in and out. And it wouldn't matter if it was 9 a.m., 5 a.m., 3 a.m., midnight, there was always something going on. In the summertime, we hardly locked our doors because people were just coming in and out, and people were outside cleaning things. And so yeah, it's been a crazy thing. You know, to look back and, it's almost like the warehouse is frozen in time from when we left March 15th. Everything is still in the same place it was and hasn't been touched in 6 months. I think what small business owners still need is no-fault bankruptcy. So a lot of small business owners didn't put themselves behind a corporation. So they're completely exposed if they don't make it. But the thing is that people don't realize is that on commercial rent, there's a personal guarantee attached to it. Even if you're behind a corporation and you went to get a bank loan, you still had to sign a personal guarantee on that loan. And so if your business collapses, or I don't want to use the F word, I don't want to use the word fail, but if because this is by no fault of our own, if it doesn't work based on the aid that's been put in place, then people are going to be responsible. Their homes are up as collateral, their cars are up as collateral, and these are families, Canadian families, that are going to be devastated by no fault of their own. The future for my business is, I think that I've been, I want to use the word aggressive. I've pushed hard enough, because what we've done is we've pushed pause on everything. So we've been able to push pause on all of our payments, all of our loans, all of our leases. So some of this equipment in here is leased. And so we've been able to convince the leasing companies to push pause. In some cases we had to pay interest, but the principal we weren't having to pay. And so that makes it a little bit easier. But the problem being is at some point, everybody is going to come back and start wanting to be paid. And so one company I spoke to yesterday, I said to them on the phone, I said, I need you guys, if possible, to leverage the businesses that have leases, that have returned to quote unquote normal, and understand that some of us haven't. And Derek, the next problem is the restaurant business. Right now it is September 3rd. We are a month to a month and a half away of no one being able to sit outside on a patio. And if we maintain 50 people sitting indoors, and only 50 people, I don't know what's going to happen to all the restaurants in town. Everybody's just getting by right now. The margins in restaurants are 6%, 8%. Nobody's going to be able to survive. My friend that owns this other business, where he had that built-in audience, made $1,000 a day, right? And like gross, he made $22 the other day. And because all of his customers are gone. And so, the thing is that before we look at a franchise as big, bad corporate entity, before we look at sending everybody home and telling everybody, you don't have to come back downtown, you don't have to go to the business park, you can all do this from home, then we have to understand that there's a ripple effect. And, somebody sent a message to me on LinkedIn and said, corporate businesses shouldn't be concerned about others, they should do what's best for them, which is the most mind-boggling thing I've ever read in my life. But the thing is that everybody's part of an ecosystem. If you go and you take fish X out of the ocean, that's going to have a much bigger effect on the entire ocean than I think people will realize. If we pull this one predator out of the jungle, then this other species takes over. So, the thing being is there's the small business and business owners is part of an ecosystem. It employs 8.3 million people across Canada. And I think that the impacts of some of the things we're doing will be felt for years. I think the City of Ottawa has done a good job. The problem with the City of Ottawa is they're limited. They've got a limited ability through municipal laws to do that much other than promote this message of please go out, please support your local businesses, which they've been doing a great job on. So if people are frustrated with the city, it's really not the city's fault. The city is very limited in their capabilities. And today I'm going to be meeting with Jim Watson, 4 city councilors, and having a round table. And the main idea of this is to have their voices take our voices and push them up the ladder. My message to the community of Ottawa, of course, is, right now we're in Operation Support Local. We have to support our local businesses. These are your neighbors, your family, your next door neighbor that are literally struggling. Because I think, Derek, the next problem we're going to have on top of everything else is there's going to be a massive mental health crisis. I think small business owners right now are skating along the edge of having a complete breakdown. And I think we just have to be kind to everybody. We have to be patient. We have to be understanding, because it's an incredibly difficult time for so many.
Our last segment this week is with this guy behind me. He's one of the most talented artists in the entire country. His name is Jeff Rogers, and he had a ton of momentum going for himself. He was producing his solo album, and his band, the Hirojo Trio, had just won an international blues competition. How did that affect Jeff and the band? We find out.
My landlord said, either come up with the bread or you'll be sleeping out in the streets. And my mechanic smirked when he took apart my Merc, saying, son, I hope you got 2 good feet. I only got one good reason to get up and face the day. I know the whole thing's crazy, but I'm crazy anyway. Someday I might regret it. She might leave me high and dry, but her kind of trouble is what gets me by. I know she's a handful, know she travels at full speed, but her kind of trouble is what I need.
We entered the Road to Memphis challenge in Ottawa that the Ottawa Blues Society puts on to select a representative to go to Memphis, Tennessee, and compete in the International Blues Challenge amongst 250 plus acts from around the world. So every major center, every city with a blues society sends a representative, whether they competed or they just get selected. So there was bands from Germany, from Norway, from Canada, from the United States, from England, from like all over the place. And we, like, our goal early on when we formed the band was like, let's do this competition, let's see how we could do. And we went down there and we won the whole thing. You know, now we got all these bookings. We're at the Chicago Blues Fest. We're in Las Vegas. We're doing a Caribbean blues cruise, all slated for 2020. And then all of that just kind of came crashing down. So, yeah, it was like 2020 started great. You know, won an international competition amongst hundreds of bands. Recorded an album in Muscle Shoals, and then the world just stopped.
And what does that mean for artists like yourself and and JW and Jamie? I mean, you get this momentum. I mean, that momentum's important, right, for a band and an artist?
Absolutely. It's to get that kind of, you kind of gotta, whenever you can get people's attention with like newsworthy stuff, and you can post about like, oh, this exciting thing's happening, or whether it's going down to Muscle Shoals and recording an album, or it's winning an international competition, like, all of a sudden, you know, we can kind of leverage that and like book some shows and get tours ready, and it's all about visibility. So when you get news like that and get progress, it's an easy way to like get into people's minds, and then, you know, kind of build awareness. So when you put out a record, you have people that are like, that have heard of you, are interested, and are going to be there for the CD release, buy the record, support the art, so that it can be an affordable venture. So when the world shuts down for the better part of a year, we had like wind blowing in the sails, and now it's gone. Now we have to basically build a new ship, and hopefully we can catch some wind. Thankfully for us, like most of our festival gigs and bookings that we had booked for this past summer have all been moved to next year. It's not like we lost them; they're just a year later, which is a blessing in disguise. It gives us time to finish a record. Because we wouldn't have had a record to tour this summer, but if it's next summer, then hopefully we'll have a record. So there is a silver lining in that, but for all musicians, summer is where you make 70% of your income most years. If you're busy, and losing pretty much an entire summer, all the weddings, all the festivals, and now they're all going to be in 2021. So now 2021 is going to be twice as many gigs. I'm going to have to turn down so many shows. So like it costs more money in more ways than one, because now I can't do some shows that I would have been able to, because there's twice as many weddings in 1 year. I can't do them all.
Yeah, we've always talked in this community about supporting, your local artists, Jeff, and if, this is your chance to reach out to the community, and, do you have a message for them when it comes to supporting artists like yourself?
I mean, support yourself first and foremost. But I mean, for the artists, I mean, whether it's tuning in to a live stream every once in a while, like so if some of your friends, same as like if you have a friend that is an owner in any type of business, you know, whether it's a bakery, like go in and buy a dozen croissants, or you know, like just a little something, and if you're not comfortable going out, then visit a streams, like, oh, these guys are good, like toss $5, $10, just say good job, and like, which is cheaper than a night out to go see a band in the club. But like those things add up. Like that's what can kind of really, you know, make a musician's month. Like, because it can be pretty thin out there. I mean, we could all use a gig. So, but it's kind of hard to. There's so many people that are kind of struggling. It feels a little selfish and self-serving to like say, oh well, like support people like me more, because I mean, like a lot of people are struggling. Take care of yourself first, and then if you can, check out a stream and give $10 or something.
'Cause I've been saving this bottle of wine. I can't think of a better time than to open it up tonight with you, my friend. You've always been there by my side, every step of this crazy ride. So let's grab a seat and let's drink this bottle of wine. Just you and me, let's finish this bottle of wine.
Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next week.